Hi, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm painting a watercolor today based upon a reference photo I took in Monument Valley, Arizona. You can see the beginning of the sketch. The final painting is there below the reference photo. You can notice the differences that I made as I went along. The painting is on a half sheet of Saunders Waterford 140 cold press. Later on you can see the colors I'm using. The blues were primarily a cerulean blue, a lavender, and imperial purple color, all of them Daniel Smith colors. For some of the reds I used naphthol red from Blick, transparent yellow iron oxide Daniel Smith, and a Anzo orange from Daniel Smith. Not very common colors for me, but I wanted to try something a little bit different. Also, I did add some zinc white to some of the blues and also some of the warm colors to get a little bit of a muted effect. Trying to replicate the colors in the scene the best I could. The brush I'm using is a 2-inch flat beveled brush. Again, it was an old brush from Zoltan Szabo, I think was his name. Went to a workshop of his many years ago. And I like the brush because I can do a lot of edge work with it. It doesn't hold a lot of water and pigment, so I have to go back to the well quite often, but it's very flexible in terms of its use, and I kind of like the brush strokes that it makes. So sometimes I'll use round brushes, and I have a few small ones that I did use on this painting. And you can see after the drawing, which is just putting in the basic shapes, I put down a first wash just to get a little bit of an undertone for the colors that I'm using. I wanted the painting to be primarily warm, similar to the reference photograph you can see there. So I have some cool colors in it to balance against the warm colors. The design of it is more intuitive. I think I should have done a value study on this, because as the painting progresses I get a little confused on exactly how the design is going to come out, where the light, dark, and middle shapes are going to be. So for most of this painting I just kind of winging it, which is never a really good idea. At this point, I was thinking I would keep the two big rock shapes in the background more of a lighter mid-tone. As the painting goes on, you can see that changed, but at this point I'm just adding different colors to try to get some variety in the mid-tones of those rocks. At some point in here I decided it's not working very well. The paint I'm putting on now is, I think, some of that transparent yellow iron that was put into a little bit lighter shade with the zinc oxide. I don't do that very often. It's a little bit transparent, but it was so watery that as it dries you really can't see much of a opaque quality to it. Wanted to add some warmer tones in the as the painting progressed into the foreground, and I also wanted at this point to have a little bit of texture down below, so I make some faster brush strokes towards the bottom of the painting. Most of that ends up being covered up to some degree, but I get some nice undertone warmth in the washes that I'm putting on right now. At this point, I really hadn't decided how I was going to treat all of the foreground. I'm just looking at the overall feel of the painting, trying to decide how I want to change it at this point without having a great game plan. And so if nothing else, this demonstration demonstrates, I think, the need for a better plan than I had. But, it's just kind of fun to do this now and then. Experiment with color and to some extent with the techniques. I'm covering up some of the blues that I established early in the painting. I'm not sure that was really a good idea. You can see it's changed a little bit as the painting dried off. And I've decided that I want to lift some of the tree shapes or branch shapes to get in the reference photo. And I wanted to... At this point, I'm thinking I'm actually going to have those remain light, and it might have been a good idea to leave it like that. As you can see, as the painting progresses, I don't do that, and there are parts of this right here that I kind of like, and I thought maybe I could have made a few dark shapes and kept it that way, but the whole painting just looked kind of flat to me. And so at this point, I'm starting to add some darker midtones or even dark tones to try to develop a little bit more depth and a little bit more interest, I think, from the painting that was just dried. I'm still lifting a few shapes, but I'm also adding a little bit of dark to the shapes that I've lifted. Give them a little bit more character. A lot of times with that flat brush, I will put some paint down and then just have the brush with mostly water on it to blend an edge, to soften an edge, or to just spread that particular pigment out a little bit. Still struggling a little here with the branch shapes. That was just an old dead tree that was sitting in the desert there. That I like the contrast between the tree branches going across the shapes of the rocks in the background, and I thought they were a nice connecting mechanism for the painting itself to kind of bring direction back from the front to the back of the painting. And that was my idea in putting them in and trying to develop interesting shapes against those rock formations in the back. It is not working real well, and so I'm adding sort of shadow shapes to again create a little bit more interest or a little bit more depth. Still staying primarily with warm colors. The color scheme doesn't bother me too much. There's a lot of yellow in there, but I knock that back just a little bit as the painting progresses. Here it's dried off again, and at this point I decided to go darker with the big rock formations in the background. The light on the painting at this point is not real easy to see that color. The board is slanted a little bit and the light's reflecting off of it, so it's a little bit hard to see what the effect that I'm doing. That you'll be able to see it better as the painting dries, but basically I'm just adding a little bit darker value, changing the color slightly on those rock formations, and trying to create a little bit more interest in the painting and popping out some of those real warm yellow and orange colors a little bit more making them a little bit more unique in the painting than they were before. I also added some neutral tint to use some of those darker warm colors in the front. Some of the neutral tint was added to that, as I recall. There's still things about this at this point I don't like very well, but I'm kind of getting to a point where my options are a little bit limited. Now it's dried off again, and so I wanted to go in just a few more touches. I'm lifting a few areas to kind of connect that branch shape from the bottom to the top. Again, I wanted that to be a little bit of a lead in to the rock formations. A few more branches using the beveled edge of that flat brush, which works nicely for that. I think at some point I start using a palette knife too, which has a little finer edge on it. That's just, I'm doing some splattering to try to create some texture in the foreground. I don't know, maybe I've already used the palette knife here. I don't think so though. Now there's I must have, because there's the final painting. As you can see, the colors are a bit different when it's not on that slant. Well, that's the end of the painting. I hope you enjoyed this demonstration.